Hey everyone, it's Likos, and this video is kind of a little late, mostly because of the hard drive malfunction that I had. And it was supposed to go up before the FCC made their vote to kill net neutrality. By the way, Ajit Pai, fuck you, you little corporate bitch. Anyway, this may be a little late, but the topic is still a important one, considering Ajit Pai's little stunt can be challenged in the courts, and I would highly urge you guys to call your representatives of your state or visit the Battle for the Net Neutrality websites and make your voice heard. We can still save this. Anyway, enjoy the video. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6. Sink. Good.
Which one? The kitchen
Alright,
sink, the bathroom
everything's
sink,
synced.
that terrible sink in the basement where you pour like rotten
Oh
milk
god,
in?
someone on my friends list is playing
Shadow,
Absolution.
didn't you make that joke the second
I
night?
don't know, I've done so many. I've been in all of them.
They just kind of blend.
Alright.
Will it blend?
There's the ones I remember, which are the ones where me and Foyle had extended discussions on things like socialism and Nazis. And then there's other.
Wasn't that like 2 days ago?
That one wasn't recorded.
And then the geopolitical situation in the Pacific?
I love you just because you knew what I meant! Sparta thought I made that up!
Alright, so anyway. Hello everyone, this is Likos. With me today in alphabetical order.
Go on.
I was going to let you get.
You're gonna make us figure it out? Some host you are. Castile, G-Dog, Foyle, and me. Hi.
Yeah, there we go.
Hello.
He's just expedited the process.
Anyway, the topic today is net neutrality. I feel we should keep it, and
Well, God,
Foils
way to
feels
really
we
blow
should
your load on the
actually
first
talk on both
minute.
sides. So,
What?
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, so here's how this
Goodness
is gonna
me.
work. We are gonna unleash the foil. Alright? That's how this will work. Foil, the floor is yours. Everyone else, get off the floor. The floor is lava.
wait, what?
Just
Get my paws!
Sounds good.
No!
Wait, what?
No, the floor is yours.
No, he said he paused. Is it still recording?
No, I said my paws. You know,
It was a bad furry joke.
furry, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that.
Get on with it.
Did you really? Do you know what? Moving on. Go on, Foil. Begin.
Okay. Anyways. My personal opinion on this is I'm not happy it's getting rescinded. I actually look at it as a necessary evil. But for the sake of conversation, I am going to speak from a point of opposition. First and foremost, if you actually support the net neutrality, you're basically saying you are okay with monopolies as long as they're government-regulated monopolies. And I have several issues with this, as I'm sure many of you probably would as well. Or are you guys just going to be quiet the whole time and this is going to be a
I
lecture?
said the floor is yours. Come on.
I assume
I
this
want
is
a
your opening
conversation.
point, so I assume this is just your
I
opening
honestly
point.
Yeah, this is
Would be
your
a
opening
don't
argument.
see it that way.
Would
Foil.
be a
I
bit
see it
rude.
as the
If this is your opening point, let him finish, then we'll
Yeah.
talk.
We'll
I'm
have our
trying to have
rebuttal
a
later.
conversation. I don't want this to be a lecture.
Don't make it
No,
a lecture, just make it your opening.
It won't be.
Courtroom style, come on.
All right. Well, obviously, like I said, it'd be a government-regulated monopoly, and honestly, like I said, this is one of I have several issues with this. Mainly, it's allowing the government unprecedented authority over something that is not a vital utility. Like, that's what net neutrality did, is it made it a Title 13 utility. It's not something that's vital for someone's life. The government should have no business with that. Now, I already have an idea of some of the things you would say regarding this clutch, regarding corruption of big business and so on. That's why I actually think the solution for this particular problem should be following anti-monopoly laws rather than turning it into a public utility regulated by the government. I will also say I'm not especially happy with it going to the FCC. I do not like the FCC. I do not support any organization whose primary objective is to censor art in any form. I will say one of the things I am actually happy about that net neutrality has been overturned is something net neutrality didn't actually address, and that's transparency of business practices that the FCC is forcing ISPs to address.
So not everything has been mentioned, basically.
Oh no, like
by a long
something...
shot, that seems to be your point here.
Yeah. I do find something interesting, though, is a lot of the things people speculate on about business practices that spurred this whole net neutrality thing that I'm aware of. These aren't actually active policies as of right now, as far as ISP goes, but these are things phone carriers do and have done for years that nobody seems to care about. Say what?
Decades.
Yeah.
Okay, so was that your opening statement?
Yeah.
Okay, is anyone in particular dying to jump on for a rebuttal?
Well, the response would have to be a detailed one, and I don't know that much about American law, given where I live, so I can't exactly offer anything of real note.
Right, but this does affect you because...
No, it doesn't.
It will wind up affecting the internet in general.
Europe is going
pretty
much the opposite. Europe seems to pretty much be going the opposite way in terms of privacy. There are privacy laws being passed, like, next year over in the EU that say, if you don't want them to fucking put cookies on your computer when you visit their website, you can now go, no thanks. You now have
I wish we would
have
do something
the
like
right
that.
to say, I want this data gone. I don't want it sold. I don't want it on the internet. Nowhere. I want it removed wholly.
That would actually go a long way to, if we implemented something like that, that would go a long way to negating the need for net neutrality.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, your whole thing there, Castile, is you don't want to get into details, but by being from the other country, you're providing another point of view.
Mm-hmm.
True.
Okay. So, you were talking about how they have the transparency and everything, and how that's good, but a lot of the things we feared aren't happening. And they're not happening now, but my thing was always more opened up the door for it to happen. Because, as we have already established in our country's past, laissez-faire goes badly.
Go ahead.
A lot of people come to these conclusions that, the people running these corporations are still human beings and will still think like them, and that has been disproven again and again that they can be trusted to make a moral decision if they're given the option.
Oh, I
find it the U.S. government.
While I find it unfortunate we have to do things like this, because in the name of the idea of free market, we shouldn't be regulating this. Unfortunately, it doesn't tend to work out well if you just trust people.
I'm not even saying that we should just trust blindly. I'm saying the biggest issue with this is the fact that ISPs have a monopoly on large swaths of the population. Like, they only have one choice in ISP.
I know,
and if they don't like what that ISP is doing, they don't have internet. Which, in and of itself, I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, but that's why I'm saying this isn't the way to go about it. We should be looking at anti-monopoly laws.
But the reason anti-monopoly laws never work is the same people who run the monopolies are the same ones that have the money to bribe the government.
Yeah, there is.
It's a nice theory.
You know, the thing is, like, isn't those laws, those and the anti-corruption laws from, like, the mob era supposed to be what holds those back, though?
Yeah, supposed to be. Until we legalized corruption. Because that is... A lot of people I've talked to, and, you know, I talk to people for a living at this point, and a lot of people I talk to don't actually understand the meaning. So I know I've mentioned it to you guys, but for the sake of making sure everyone understands what it conveys, have you ever seen the clip and gotten really confused of, say, Mitt Romney saying corporations are people, and how weird that was a thing people were arguing about? For the sake of understanding, just to make it very clear, that was the second part of a bill. The first part of the bill made giving money to a politician an act of free speech, which cannot, under any circumstances, you be tried for or you be punished for under the law. Now, that in itself, I don't actually disagree with. You should be able to support someone if you like them and you want them to be your representative. But by making corporations people, you have legalized it for corporations to literally pay politicians off.
In other words, what...
And at that point, anything can't really get done by any amount of protesting or lobbying, since they can just go, have some money, have some more money.
And because a lot of our things, especially congressmen, only have a 3-year cycle, by the time they actually get inaugurated, they're already having to worry about, how do I get reelected? I need money.
It casts certain aspersions on the entire political process.
That's an understatement.
Yeah. Like, I understand the reasons why congressmen's... Like I said, and we had this discussion earlier, Clutch. Like, there's a reason why the Senate and Congress, Senate has longer term, whereas Congress is short term. To mitigate the changing views of the public. Like, I think it's not the best system there could be, but I think it's the best one that's been presented.
That seems like True. That does seem like it inherently has flaws, though.
Yes, it will.
Since
like, I don't think
the opinions of the people in the Senate will change over time.
Yeah, but it will change much slower in the Senate than it will in the House.
True.
Like, the Senate's supposed to be the long view, whereas, like, the House is your populist.
More immediate.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Sparta and G-Dog have said almost nothing. Come on, get in here.
I mean, the only thing I can really weigh in on that we've already talked about is the anti-monopoly laws that really, I think, should be implemented more, but because of what you stated before, Shadow, companies are now, quote-unquote, people. We really can't do anything about that. They're technically people.
Well, we could also point out that monopolies have also historically been very inconsistent with their regulations. Yes, there have been people who've definitely tried to break them before, but at the same time, there have been... How do I put this carefully? So the president themselves does not does not tell law enforcement exactly how to do their job, but they can tell law enforcement how much priority a law takes. So unless one explicitly says, our current priority now is monopolies, it generally just gets ignored for violent crime. Because violent crime is generally considered a more important thing. Just like at times white-collar crime will get ignored a lot more. And like bigger organizations like the FBI absolutely have their own agenda. So unless they're explicitly told this is your current agenda, you don't even know where they're going to end up going.
Yeah.
You can't really avoid that once they get big enough. It will happen.
Very true.
Yeah.
So we have laws in place, but they're not massively enforced at the moment. For some reason, a lot of people think monopolies are somehow something that's been dealt with. They're a relic of the past, and it isn't true.
Oh, no, well, put it this way. Every telecommunications company, every ISP, every media outlet is owned by one of 5 companies in America.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah, it's
most
Fox,
of them are owned by the big 3.
MSNBC. That's the thing people don't understand. It's like you see so many different companies on the surface, but if you go and actually look at who they're owned by, it ends up being the same few fucking things.
It's like candy bars, or
it's over here. Apparently,
the eyeglass.
Even
companies.
In places like.
Did you know almost every eyeglass company is the same company, just with different names to give people the illusion of choice?
I actually didn't know that. I don't use.
I don't remember which one it is.
Nope, I didn't know that.
Like
either.
lens crafters, all of them, and all the ones you see advertising are owned by the same umbrella corporation. They only have different names to make you think you're getting something different, that you're making a choice.
Yep. Now you see
well, they do a good enough job making different frames and everything.
The whole
but they're all made in the same factory.
Like that,
one factory makes every company.
Yes, but they all look completely different, so they can get away with just saying, "Oh, this is from this company," or "Oh, this is from this."
It's
company.
not even
so
different
because
companies,
they have
it's just
variety.
different
It's
brands.
okay. They lied to the public.
Yeah. It's different brands, but it's the same company. Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Lucozade, so on. Guess what? They're all ultimately made by the same company. The same fucking people make them.
And that is a monopoly that we are apparently, as a culture, okay with. Even though we talk about how we need to stop monopolies.
I'm actually not okay with it. It's just not enough people give a flying fuck. Or even really understand that
know
it's
that much to give a fuck.
Yeah, like ignorance of some of these issues is fucking rampant. Well, not even some, a lot.
Yeah.
As my history teacher used to say, ignorance is bliss.
That's more than your history teacher there.
A lot of people say.
Oh, still.
Ignorance is how you end up in a tyrannical dictatorship. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
People are content to be ignorant, though.
Using a quote here.
Well, I mean,
if I bury my head in the sand, the world can't hurt me, right?
Well, Sparta, let me say this. You use a quote, the context in which you use it falls on you.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
You know, you can use quotes whenever you want. It would be a little weird if we were having a discussion about, let's call it our favorite beverages, since we already talked about soda. And Sparta says, and they're all run by the same person, and I randomly blurted out, I am become death, destroyer of worlds. And
yeah,
yes, I just quoted someone, and I could say, yeah, I'm just quoting someone, but why that had anything to do with it is on me to explain.
Right.
Okay, hang on. I have to do something because I said that.
How...
Manhattan Project complete.
What?
I had the cash. I was like, you know what? That's not why I said it, but I bought it.
Victory is mine.
I mean, the reason I said that quote was because, well, we were talking about how people are just ignorant to the whole monopolies are pretty much controlling everything and don't really have any...
Yeah, exactly. There ain't nothing wrong with being a little gay. Everyone's a little gay.
Yeah.
Some much more so than others.
Here's something
I'm
else
going to do
that
this all
people don't-
day.
On this net neutrality issue, here's something else people don't understand. It's hard under a monopoly to create a new company to provide a service. But when the government
Because there's a
regulates
monopoly.
it becomes impossible. This is why you don't see new power companies, new fucking oil companies, shit like that the government regulates. You don't see new companies come up unless it's something the government wants, like green energy company, where they're subsidizing these new companies that are showing up, which, honestly, green energy in America is a fucking failure.
Given the size of
I'm
the
still a
country.
proponent of let's just go nuclear, so...
I am too, actually.
Yep.
But we can't because the government has so many regulations on those. It takes up to 40 fucking years just to open a new plant.
Well, it's not only that.
Mm-hmm.
Public opinion on nuclear energy is very ignorant. So...
Mhm.
And it doesn't
It's
help
virtually
you get
limitless.
Not to mention,
screen
it probably
power.
didn't help when Chernobyl went boom.
Yeah, but Chernobyl went boom because a great
that
deal of
went
things.
boom before
I know,
any
it
of us
went
were
boom
even
because
alive,
people
dude.
weren't paying attention to the fucking fucking lights saying, hey, cool this shit down or we go boom.
Well, I could also
Well,
point out, if
actually,
we're going this route, wouldn't the better one mentioned, considering where we are, be 3 Mile Island?
3 Mile...
Yeah.
Oh! I think I know what you're talking about.
Apparently,
So-
it's an unrelated thing. It can wait.
Well, I was going to say,
And in
isn't
Japan, wasn't there a reactor that went nuclear?
Yes, but that's because it
Fukushima.
had... Yeah.
it
But that
got hit
one
by a
was A
tidal wave,
tsunami.
dude.
Yeah. That was A tsunami,
Yeah,
and B,
it
they
got-
weren't...
Then by
they
an
didn't-
earthquake, and it also didn't help that they didn't have any...
It wasn't up to regulation. Also,
It wasn't.
the earthquake
that's it.
is
Yeah,
what
but-
created the tsunami. The tsunami did not happen before the earthquake.
Oh yeah.
I thought there was a second earthquake that happened after the
Aftershocks
tsunami.
happen, yes, that's every earthquake.
Well, wasn't it like the earthquake destabilized it, but the actual accident happened when the tsunami hit?
Yeah. But at the same time, they freely admitted that was not up to standards.
Yeah. Which
So
is
that is up to
odd for
regulation.
Japan.
That's
But-
anything. Anything can go wrong if you don't regulate.
Right.
But once again, I'll come back to one of the first points I made too, is this is not a necessary service. You're giving government regulation to a luxury service. Like, I don't believe the government has any right to regulate this beyond deceptive practices.
But at this point, how integrated is the internet into everyone's everyday lives, aside from countries that don't have internet?
Which is the majority of the world still does not have internet, dude. Like, it's...
But at the
I
same
know,
time, it
but
could be
for the
argued
parts of
that...
the world where it is integrated,
At the same time,
How
it could be
the
The
argued
internet
like the same way with
is
cell
a
phones.
convenience. You do not need it to live your everyday life. And this is someone who's on the internet constantly in a
I
game.
know.
He's right.
Oh, well,
You do
I
not
know
need
it's not
it.
necessary for
It is an
everyday life,
extreme convenience. I don't think technology is quite at the point where you can argue it has become more than a luxury utility quite yet. But that's a wholly different matter, let's be honest.
Well, no, it's not a different matter
Yes, but the
because
point I'm
whether
trying
or
to get
not the
across
government
is,
has a
say-
right to regulate it depends on if it's necessary or not. The government has no right to regulate a luxury service beyond deceptive practices.
Does it get to the point, though, of monopolies?
Monopolies are... The thing with monopolies, this is an issue whether they're using deceptive practices or not. It is an issue. Like I said, there are huge swaths of the country that have one choice and one choice only. That's a monopoly.
And sometimes that one choice provides awful connection capability.
Yes.
Which is...
Well, also they
which is
have
also
very deceptive practices because they know you have no choice, so they'll give you a price and double it in a year.
Okay, but...
It's apparently it's a thing... Since you mentioned such things of dishonest practices, apparently that's the thing with travel sites. Like, the cookies they use will determine when you visit, and, like, they'll apparently raise the fucking shown price on return visits to try and incentivize people
that's
to
not
pay.
Exactly... That wouldn't have anything to do with net neutrality, because net neutrality is on ISPs only. That is a deceptive
practice.
Like,
it's a similar thing of what I mean, and on the subject of deceptive practices. It's really fucking deceitful. Let's not mince words about that.
No, it's not. And, like, I disagree with that totally, but that's on that specific travel company. Like I said, I wish we had shit in the works about being able to disable cookies and shit like that. Like, that would solve a lot of issues.
Fuck Europe does.
Well, the thing is, Europe is at least Europe's governments tend to be a lot more caught up with how technology works than America's historically do. America still has people in our Congress who are back there trying to stop Martin Luther King from having speeches. That's how long our people have been in Congress.
Well, it's because
Europe
nobody pays
at least has a
attention to the
bit more
fucking
of
house.
a turnover.
It's because nobody in America pays attention to Congress. Everybody's worried about president, and that's about it.
Because they see the president, they see the president and think he is the lead one at fault. It's not. There's so much more. You'd think people would logically realize something so big takes so much more than just one man.
Well, the Congress wields more power, honestly.
Yeah.
And when the government was designed, the president was a figureheaded name only. He was nothing else.
I mean, in some regards...
Yeah, wasn't the president only supposed to control the army? And even at that, very limited?
No, he has full control over the army if he chooses to use it. That's what commander-in-chief means.
Not only that,
no, the original intention. Well, he's also
chief diplomat and all that, too. And chief executive officer.
Trump is
all
chief
the things
diplomat.
that a figurehead would be.
Yeah, I know. Oh, man.
Yeah. He may as well be a figurehead, I suppose. For all practical terms. Trump especially. A different president. Not nearly so much, I think, but Trump, yeah.
But I was going to say, in some regards, the vice president is even more powerful than the president just because the vice president has a vote in the Senate.
That's true.
And the president doesn't?
No. In fact, there have been numerous occasions already where Sean Pence actually did cast a deciding vote. He was the swing vote.
Actually, right now, the way it's looking, he's going to break the record for the most votes in the Senate. I think he's already tied with
what's the current record?
I think the current record...
Wait, do you mean Mike Pence or someone else?
Mike Pence.
Yeah.
Which,
Mike
God,
Pence.
fucking
There's
hell.
only one Pence that we know of in Congress.
No, it's just I thought Foyle called him Sean Penn for a moment. I was extremely confused.
No,
Someone did. I was thinking...
Actually, I think I went to Sean Spicer for some fucking reason.
Yeah, he's PR... That guy got fired, didn't he?
Oh yeah, Spicy's gone.
Yeah.
I'll admit I'm highly fucking curious
in his place
about
is
that.
Even
Huckabee Sanders is in his place.
Huckabee Sanders.
Yeah.
Jesus fucking Christ, that name.
Because
no offense,
Huckabee,
but she sounds
it's
like,
a hyphen
she
name.
sounds like she came from darkest
No,
Texas.
that's a hyphen name. She's Huckabee's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how in the family our Congress is run. Because he was another one who ran for president.
Yeah.
Christ.
Oh yeah,
Fucking hell.
And to think, in our Constitution, it says "we the people," not "we the fucking."
Okay,
Congress
don't
or
go
we
there.
the
We the
company.
people also meant we the white land-holding males. So
yeah.
True.
To be fair, I've seen things
hang
back
on,
then were weird.
we the white
They weren't-
land-holding males of Anglo-Saxon descent. Because if
Yeah.
you were
I've
saying
seen-
Irish, fuck you.
I've seen many
Actually, they didn't
things
even
about
consider Irish white at the time.
Nope.
that. Fucking hell.
Wait, serious?
No, they considered
I'm
them
not
Asian.
surprised.
But they have white skin. What the hell?
Yeah. Apparently, some of the founding fathers, especially Jefferson, were really into this Saxon master race shit. Look into it if you don't believe me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, fuck. Really? Master race shit again?
I
Does it
might have to look
surprise
this
you?
up.
Oh, my
Apparently,
fucking
America supported the fucking Nazis for quite a while back then.
I wouldn't
Okay,
say we
most
supported
of the
them.
world did for a while because Adolf
Hang on.
Hitler was like a genius in building Germany back up.
First of all, what did
Yeah,
I say about
no
how
one,
we always end up
no
talking about
one
Nazis
quite
before here?
understood
Second
what
of all,
Hitler did.
we basically created Nazis because they actually modeled their systems after our Jim Crow laws.
Yeah. At least initially.
I mean, we didn't have we did have internment camps.
Oh, we had straight up concentration camps for the Japanese during World War II. Don't mince
Well,
words,
we called
man.
them internment camps. I used
They
our
were
word.
concentration camps. We
They
killed
were.
people.
I just used the word we
Yeah.
use, so they're easier to Google. God, I know what they are.
Yeah, let's not mince any words. We know they were concentration camps for the fucking Imperial Japanese. Then they ended up getting nuked, and it just fucked their world philosophy
They
for
weren't
the
even
next
Imperial
70 years.
Japanese. They were
They
Japanese
ours.
immigrants.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
they were the people in our own country. We locked up our
Yeah.
own people in concentration camps.
Unsurprising. Completely unsurprising.
As said,
Yeah, there's actually a museum here in Seattle that actually has a museum to that.
I mean,
And
like,
let's not
I
forget,
had-
we had similar things for Native Americans at times.
Yeah.
With particular emphasis on the shit we did to the Iroquois, despite actually naming them as people who inspired our government. We actually destroyed the Iroquois as part of the Revolutionary War. Shockingly, they
Yeah,
bring
like-
this directly up in Assassin's Creed 3, because keep in mind, Connor was a Mohawk. The Mohawk was in the Federation.
They
So,
did their research.
The Mohawks did side with the British. Because 4 of the 6 nations sided with the U.S., 2 sided with England. Not only did we both sides methodically destroy them during the war with no cares, they didn't even get a seat at the peace discussions.
Yeah, because they were fucking destroyed.
They weren't destroyed fully yet, but there were multiple camps that were destroyed and full-on tribes that were destroyed along the way and then blamed the other side to try to, rally more support. Oh, the British must have burned down your village. Send more soldiers.
Yeah.
Can we just say we're kind of...
Americans are cunts. The British were cunts too. Like, don't...
I was
gonna
gonna
say,
say,
you learned from the
mistake
best.
me.
Both our countries
We
are...
might have
I
been
fully
cunts, but Britain
understand
were
why
cunts
people
for a
were
lot
fucking
longer.
wank.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
learned
but
from the
like-
best.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose you did.
Yeah. Didn't you use an entire continent as a prison camp?
Oh yeah.
Australia.
Yeah,
Australia isn't a continent, I'd say. Australia is a country, but yes.
It
It's
is
both.
a
It is a
continent.
continent. It's its own
Fair
tectonic
enough, then
plate.
yes, we used an entire continent as a prison camp.
And not just any
Never-
continent. Australia. You know when
We
you
looked
see
at the
like video
shittiest
of
place.
Tachanka in Mass Effect and everything's like, everything here wants to kill you and eat you. The most common cause of death is eaten by predator. That's training for Australia.
I mean, it does make sense they would want to bomb emus, given their origins. They're just
Oh,
fucking mad. I'm going
Bring
to
that up
mention
again.
that.
Well, see,
That-
if my memory's right, like the penal colony on Australia wasn't like a debtor's prison either. It was for like hardcore criminals, like violent offenders and shit. Fucking
Oh, yeah.
traitors, pirates, fucking shit like that.
Fun fact,
Pirates
pirates
don't
were-
put me in
Pirates
Australia.
Pirates
survive
were
on
apparently
land.
very ordered, in actuality.
they had to deal with the worst of the shit on the sea. They probably knew how to deal with shit on land somehow.
Hey, you want to know a fun fact as to why we view pirates wearing pirate clothes? What we consider
Why?
pirate clothes is literally just what people wore at that age. If you went to anyone at that age, they would all look like pirates.
Yeah.
That was just the
pretty much.
fashion. There was no such thing as pirate fashion. That was just what people wore.
Yeah, well, people who were seafaring, like that wasn't too common inland. More
Well, I didn't think that's what they'd be wearing in India or something.
yeah. Have you not read history books?
There weren't a lot of Indian pirates. No, it's all of the people from the parts of Europe that sent them out. You know, England, France, Spain, some Portugal, some Netherlands.
You know, you say that, but yeah, there were a lot of Indian pirates. A lot of South Asian pirates. There's still a lot of
Correction.
South Asian pirates.
Okay, let me correct. I was referring to the common one people think of, the Caribbean pirates. Let's leave the whole Indian Sea out of this before we end up getting hunted down by Somali pirates here.
I was away for a few minutes, so what part were we at the moment? What were we discussing?
Somehow
Pirates are
Neutrality
bad,
got us
okay.
We're
discussing
talking
Somali
about
pirates.
Oh, yeah. It's because I mentioned the thing
Anyway,
about pirates
I wanna
being
bring the
orderly.
topic-
I actually had to just say this to someone else. When I mention that, I do not mean modern Somali pirates and the like. I mean the sort you'd see in the days of Black Flag and so on.
Yeah, that's because most of them are ex-military.
Yes.
And in all honesty, even the most notorious pirates didn't last that long when they turned on their own militaries.
No.
Most of their reigns were 3 to 6 years. If
Well,
that.
I mean, most of the big-name pirates were basically freelance military ships attacking either the English or the Spanish.
there weren't
And then
a lot
once
of
the war
volunteers.
ended, they had no work.
And Captain Kidd wasn't even a pirate. We all seem to forget that. He attacked the wrong ship because it was flying the wrong colors.
Yep.
It was an English
Doesn't
ship
surprise
flying
me.
French colors. He was allowed.
I
He had
mean-
a letter of marque to sink French ships. It had French colors. He attacked it, and he got hanged for the privilege.
I mean, that level of incompetence doesn't surprise me. It's somewhat off color of the subject, but I've heard stories about, like, the Russian Navy back in World War II. Don't get me started. Horrible.
I think the
Fuck
Russian
any
Navy
navy
in
in
World
the
War II
wars,
was a rowboat.
dude.
Hold on,
No,
I
the
didn't
Russians
even hear
especially so.
anything,
Apparently
from
they
World War II
ended up
about the
sinking a friendly
Russian
ship.
Navy, so
That's not uncommon, honestly.
Yeah.
yeah, you-
Particularly back in the days
a
of
stray
wooden
shot
ships
or
and
a stray
cannons.
torpedo could easily sink one ship.
No, it was bad. It was really bad. I would have to go and find it, and I'll admit I'm not wholly sure how true it is, but it was fucking just
Well,
beggars belief.
I think a lot of people thought back in the days of like wooden ships and cannons, a lot of the time, I think there were probably numerous friendly fire kills in like the Battle of the St. Lawrence in 1812.
Oh, yes.
Just because they kept firing at night and they couldn't see whose colors they were shooting. They would just see a flash and fire at the flash. By the time day broke and they could see, there were British ships in the American line and vice versa, which then were fired upon in every direction, and I'm sure shots went wide and hit each other. Naval war is a fucking shit show when you have more than 2 ships involved.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, look at the battles on the Great Lakes. Fucking God, Perry and his men in Erie Superior. That shit. You know, the cool thing is they're still finding ships.
Net neutrality to pirates.
Oh, there are so many shipwrecks in the Great Lakes that we don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't think to look at a freshwater lake, but there's a million.
Oh, yeah.
And not just from
Lake
wars.
Erie's.
Oh.
Yeah, Lake Erie's
Since
cool
there was
too because you
mention
can
of
walk.
Since there was
Go ahead.
mention of EA's finances earlier on, before we started this whole thing, I just saw an interesting thing about Sega's finances.
You mean
lot
the
of
shell company
Japanese-
that used to be Sega?
Sega?
I was
like
going to say,
Sega.
you mean the couch, the money they found in the couch cushions?
Yeah, like actual Sega.
I'm pretty sure actual
The company
Sega
that
doesn't
finds money
exist
on the
anymore.
fucking ground.
Apparently, like, their profits have gone down over in Japan and the like because a lot of companies like that, Sega, Konami and the like, even SNK, have a fairly strong investment in pachinko machines and so on. Apparently, their pachinko machines are fucking bombing, and I believe it's because, like, it's saying that part of their business is down 30% from what they had thought it would be. I believe that's because the Japanese government ended up regulating it fairly strongly. Because the thing with loot boxes is, as they are now, Japan had them as a really fucking bad problem with mobile games and the like.
Oh, yeah.
Really bad. Like,
Well,
I
that's what
think
a lot of
over
people
there,
refer
it's
to it
now-
as like the freemium model being turned into a fucking
Yeah.
thing for a full-fledged game.
No, these were mobile games, but they were still
By the
really
way,
bad.
I talked to Isaac about this.
I believe it's now
he still supports the fucking companies doing this for some stupid
Isaac
reason.
likes being the devil's
I
advocate.
don't get it.
I believe it's mandated there as it is in China that they now have to show your exact chance of getting something.
Yeah, you have to
particular.
show your chances in China.
I believe
my
It led
God,
to a
yeah.
lot of
Japan
people
too.
going, "Wow, that's a 0.1% chance. Not happening. You're not getting my money."
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, no, it probably led
Which,
to more
to be
people
fair,
being stuck in gold
surprise,
farming.
when people know exactly what they're fucking betting on, they might be less eager to bet. This is the thing with EA and fucking Battlefront 2, Overwatch and so on, and I am gonna fucking accuse Overwatch of it, because Overwatch does it with fucking skins. Yes, they're skins, sure, but still, the chance you have of getting some of them amounts to fuck all, I think. And they don't state the exact chances.
But if you're paying
So-
money for a chance at a skin, it's a skin, so I get it. It doesn't matter. You know what you're signing up for there. If it's to fucking progress in the game, it's a different story.
Yeah, but the thing is, my problem is paying money for the chance of something. It's like you can pay for a chance at these clothes. We'll spin the fucking rack. Whatever you get is what you get. It doesn't matter if it's a skirt and you're a fucking 22 stone man. You settle for that shit, bitch, or you pay again.
I'm not
No.
saying I agree with the practice. I'm saying it could be a lot worse.
You know, I will say this, what you're talking about, I kind of like what DICE did with Battlefield 1 is their loot boxes had chances for cosmetic skins. And even if you didn't get something you want, it also gave you parts that you could use to get more loot boxes once you gathered enough parts.
Yes, that's
Yeah, I
how
wish
a lot of,
Sieges had that.
that's how a lot of companies do it for the model. To be fair, with alpha packs, you can't buy them.
Yeah, that's true. You can't buy the alpha packs. And if you want to buy cosmetics in Siege, you actually just buy that cosmetic that you want, so...
Yep. The Titanfall method.
See, I hate loot boxes as any sort of actual in-game mechanic for progression or anything. I don't give a fuck about cosmetics because cosmetics are cosmetics. I don't care what...
Right.
I mean, if you care that much about what you look like, you're missing the point of the game.
I'm literally pinned by Ballista Fire. Fuck off, Peacekeeper.
That said,
Well, anyway,
well, I
sorry,
was
go
going
ahead.
to say, Castillo, have you heard anything about this shit that fucking Dark Souls is supposed to be getting loot boxes?
No, no, that strikes me as blatantly not true. I think that was just a meme of people trying to prove a point. They're done with Dark Souls, and I doubt Miyazaki would do it. I think he'd just say, fuck off. No.
You know, I want to say I'm in the same boat, but companies tend to overrule their creative directors.
Yeah, but the thing with Miyazaki is, he could just go elsewhere.
And I don't doubt he would.
His portfolio is esteemed enough that he could go elsewhere, he could take From Software elsewhere. I mean, he said, I'm not doing any more Dark Souls games. I imagine he plans to fucking stick to that.
Mm-hmm.
And how would you stick loot boxes in a games like Dark Souls anyway?
From the one I saw, like, I don't know how reliable it was, but it was talking about putting loot boxes as a new menu option when you talk to the Firekeeper.
Oh no, it's just a video from a guy. It's like he did a video once on what Dark Souls would be like if it had an easy mode. It's a hypothetical thing. It's not actually getting them.
Well, the one I was reading was actually an article about it.
Yeah, no, it's not happening. The article may be about the video, but the video is a very fucking assuredly not based on anything.
I didn't even know there was a video, so...
Well, anyway, back to the topic of net neutrality. Isaac did mention one thing that he seems pretty adamant about that could probably fix it. I don't know how much it would, but every single time net neutrality or internet comes up in the conversations me and him have, he always brings up the fact that Elon Musk is working towards trying to get lower orbiting satellites, and somehow that will make it better internet for everyone.
Yeah, because the signal
I'm not entirely certain how that would work.
The signal will be more proliferated and stronger and so on.
Well, not only that,
right,
that would actually make...
He seems to think that will also keep companies from being able to do this shit, that net neutrality being removed.
Because it will be wrong.
Because anyone could make a company, is what he's
Yeah, it would solve some of the issues with monopoly. And if people find out that
Elon Musk is generally like that as a note. Like, his thing is that he advocates shit that would just help people.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, the biggest issue with this whole thing is the monopoly hold they have over people.
You can't...
Like, if you have Company A that's limiting download speeds and offering preferred sites on their searches and whatnot, people aren't going to go to that if Site B is, or ISPB doesn't do that. They're going to go to ISPB. By the way, pick a race for me to play in fucking Skyrim. Somebody.
Imperial.
High Elf?
I go with Imperial just because I'm never Imperial.
No one's Imperial, that's why I said it.
To be fair, what do the Imperials even give, really?
Jack shit.
They get bonus
Precisely.
gold.
It's like a extra 3 gold per container. It'll add up eventually, but ooh, excitement.
Yeah.
Or, hang on, do you have the Imperious mod equipped?
I'm doing a vanilla playthrough. I turned off all my mods.
Why? Why do you hate yourself?
Because it gives me something I can mindlessly do while talking.
Well, if I didn't have to record, I'd probably play Fallout with its mods. So, I mean, you don't have to turn off the mods.
Well, I kind of want to get the achievements on this gen.
Meh.
Okay, that's a more...
Oh.
No, I think if he wants to get the achievements, he should.
Who needs achievements?
Achievement hunters. You asked, I answered.
You say this, but you don't realize how hard I've worked for some of the achievements I had on my old account. But, I mean... But, like, the whole thing with net neutrality at its base is it's... What the fuck was that?
I lost
G-Dog.
against Gauntlet, who's like level fucking
No, it's
40
not me.
something.
Christ.
But
What can
I
you
was going to
say?
say, like, the whole net neutrality thing, yeah, it offers an assurance the company can't take advantage of, but like I said, it neuters any competition. It's basically a government-regulated monopoly, and you're saying you're fine with this. Like, whether you choose to look at it that way or not, that is what you're doing.
But at the same time, it's so hard for a company to achieve any level of success when that company is going to be, when they're small, is going to be paying so much more in, say, percentage of profit taxes than the company making ass loads of money because of all the loopholes and ways you can have a tax shelter these days. So it would take a whole revamp of the goddamn free market system at this point and our tax code to even make it possible for a company to rise up and take it.
God, just the tax
Or
code getting revamped
an
would go a long
investor-
fucking way.
Or for the people who are starting the company to have billions to invest.
So you're basically saying it's fine to completely remove that option because it's hard.
I'm saying I don't see it happening. It's one of those things. It's possible. It could happen. It won't, but it could. That's the idea I have right behind it.
What do you
Sure,
refer
you're
to
given-
that... Sorry, I was a
The
bit
idea of
zoned
a
out for a
company-
second.
The idea at this point of a company from scratch managing to come in, grow enough, and take the profit share, enough profit share to actually amount to anything from these major companies right now is so remote that I think at this point, unless we want to have major reworks of tax codes and things, yeah, we are just going to have to focus on controlling what the companies can do.
You know, you say that, but at the same time, like, the market there are people that want smaller companies. They want the smaller companies because they are stuck with one company like Comcast, and they fucking hate it. They would go
Time
to
Warner.
any other service
They like
if
that,
it was
and
fucking
there are
available.
people, but the overwhelming majority of people are just going to take whatever's cheaper. It's like when people create the premium this or that. A few people are going to pay for the word premium, but the overwhelming majority of people are just going to say, fuck that, I'll get this one, it's half the cost. Sure, you might be able to create a niche, but you're not going to control enough market share to break up a monopoly.
But you see, it doesn't have to completely break up a monopoly. It just needs to take hold in areas where it is the only thing. Like, where these companies make their monies are places like California and New York where you have choices. Like, net neutrality for big areas like that is not an issue, because if one company is doing something they don't like, they will just move to another company. It's the people like in the Midwest that don't have a fucking choice.
And how many companies do you see rising there and getting enough market share there to take over, or to at the very least give the choice? Anyone who has the money to start a startup like that and the desire to is almost certainly going to go for a bigger area. That's why there's monopolies over those places in the first place.
I see, the thing is, like, I could see if we could just get some. Don't even break up the monopoly if that's such a big issue. Just regulate their anti-competition bullshit. Like undercutting things that they take a small loss on because they can recoup it in the big cities. Like, that's dirty business practices that should already be fucking
illegal,
worked against in our legal system. Like, we have laws against it, but they're not enforced.
And now you're back at my point from earlier.
Another thing we probably should bring up is...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, what it comes down to is you're putting a Band-Aid over something without taking care of the root cause, because we can't take care of the root cause because our system in place is ineffective.
I'm saying that it's better to have a Band-Aid than nothing at all. You have to staunch the bleeding somehow, and I'd rather have a Band-Aid than some well-wisher saying, look, you'll be fine, walk it off.
Which takes me back to my very first point. Like, you're setting a precedence that just because a company has a stranglehold of the people, that company should be regulated by the government, no questions asked.
I think plenty of questions have been asked at this point.
Not within the legal system, anyways. It's why it got passed so widely. Like, I'm kind of surprised it's actually being overturned.
What's being overturned?
Net neutrality.
The net neutrality. That dumbass pie guy is trying to revoke it.
Ajit Pai himself may be a...
Look, I'm just going to keep calling him dumbass pie guy.
Ajit Pai himself may be a cunt, but Foyle has made a fair point.
I'm going to say this. Like I said initially, I personally think it's a necessary evil. But I'm kind of interested to see what kind of regulations the FCC is going to put out, because that's who the ISP is going to fall under now. The FCC and the Federal Trade Commission. But I hate the FCC just because the reason for their existence.
And let's not say for a second the FCC doesn't overreach regularly.
Oh, it does. Very much so. Like I said, I hate it just on the basis that its sole purpose is to, or its primary purpose, I should say, is to censor art. I disagree with that.
What does that fall under it? Why do you call it that exactly? I'm curious. Why do you put it like
the
that?
FCC? The FCC is the Federal Communications Committee. They are the ones who say what is okay to broadcast, what is okay to put in public. They may actually be branching out in the fucking book soon, which has me pissed off.
Why?
Because you have a bunch of people that are upset because Mark Twain says in his books.
It's a historical document at this point.
Yes.
Yeah, I heard.
I'm... censoring of books is wrong at... No. The fact that people are upset that you can see that in Mark Twain and still go pick up a copy of Mein Kampf.
Yeah.
What?
Mark Twain wrote his books how long ago?
1800s.
I don't know how long
Exactly. So something in 1800s retroactively needs to be censored because people's fucking sensitivities get hurt and they can't handle it.
Like, I'm so against the FCC.
Well, the FCC's problem, as you put it, is more of a societal problem. I'm going to be honest.
Yes, it is. And it's the brainchild.
People won't do anything about it until it, fucking blows up in their faces.
Well, the minute you try to challenge the FCC, you're going to have everybody to the right of center screaming, but it's for the children, because that's their main argument for it, is it protects children, because God forbid parents, monitor what their kids watch.
But the problem with that is, isn't it better for you to actually let the children know about
It's the same
endemic,
argument people have always had.
explain to them why
of
certain
this
things are
fucking
wrong.
thing where people love to take responsibility away from
Well,
others.
Keep in mind, Sparta, the FCC censors not only for, sexual content, but also, violence, gore, cursing.
Violent content is censored, yet I'm pretty sure Wolfenstein is a thing. You chop a woman's fucking head in half with an axe. Can see her brain.
That's rated. That's what the ESRB does.
Yeah, but isn't she a part of the Nazis in that game? Does it really matter?
Still getting a fucking head chopped in half. Violence
but that's
is
the ESRB's
Still
domain.
a Nazi.
I mean, to
Fair
be
point.
fair, it's a mature game, and you actually, if you look underage, you have to show your ID to get it.
Yes.
Don't people get around that by just having their parents buy it for them?
Actually, yes.
Oh, fuck
But
yeah.
it's like an R-rated movie. You can get it if your parents let you. Then it's your parents' fault because they're the ones that let it happen.
Actually, if a movie's R-rated, they're not supposed to let anyone in if they're under 17, whether their parents are there or not.
Really?
Yes.
Wasn't that way down in
Yeah.
Texas?
It's not that way
That's
anywhere.
what that R means.
But
it's restricted
it
under
should be.
17. You're not supposed to let anyone in if they're under 17. And if you're 17 and under 18, you're supposed to have a parent or legal guardian with you to watch it.
What do you know?
Yeah. There's something else to consider since you bring up video games. The ESRB is a private committee. They're actually not beholden to any law. Video games are actually unregulated as far as the law goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, wasn't the ESRB established mostly because game companies didn't want to be regulated?
Yes.
The
That's
ESRB
exactly
was
why.
established
And that's
because
the
of,
thing.
Mortal Kombat.
Since you mentioned...
Yes.
Yeah, it was. And since you mentioned that, it's why the whole MTX thing, as I see it called so often, for I'm not entirely sure why, It's why it could put them in such a fucking panic. Because if they start getting government regulated and they're classed as gambling, people have mentioned it. The gambling committee are going to come along and say, "Hey, we want a piece of this because it's gambling." So they're entitled to a piece of it.
It's entirely possible.
It may not
it's
be
also...
entirely that simple, but just saying. Just to, like, make that point.
In the short run, if they decide to declare it as gambling here, that means a lot of games are going to get kicked up to a mature rating.
AO, and so on.
Well,
isn't
MA
it AO
here.
over there?
AO is adults only, and we rarely, if ever,
mature audiences, adults only, and so on.
Well, mature audiences, 18 or older,
nowadays,
adults
PG
only. You cannot sell adults only on a video game shelf. Like, you have to buy those download.
Yep.
Right. And most of the time, most violent games, they're listed as E, technically could be listed as T, but sometimes they're not. Same thing with how movies are done. Most PG-13s are...
Okay, I will say
PG
this.
because,
The ESRB is actually pretty good about the rating system. If there's actually a lot of violence, it will be kicked up. Like, they're actually pretty good about that. Like, I can't think of an E-game that has happened
sometimes.
I can't think of an E-game that has a lot of violence.
The problem is depicted.
And if there
violence.
is, it's really cartoony. That's the other
thing.
Something that's very clearly an over-the-top cartoony thing. Like, if you want to make this argument, Mario is full of violence. He racks up a huge kill count, but it's in a cartoony, child-friendly way.
Mario technically curb stomps fucking animals. Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Presentation is a big part of it.
And throws Bowser into explosives.
And let's not forget the Mario and
have you
Rabbids
not
game that
forgotten
is
the
basically
fucking
XCOM.
lava? Bowser gets thrown into lava and reduced to a fucking skeleton.
Yeah, that was one of the more recent Mario games.
Yeah.
No, that's been that way
basically
on the DS.
No, not what you were talking about.
Ah. Oh yeah, you mean the Mario and the
skeleton thing was only in one Mario game ever, and I think it was a DS game.
But I mean, that kind of stuff is like so over the top and cartoony. Like, it's not scary. It's not really a depiction of violence that would be harmful for a kid, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Unlike, say, Gears of War, Wolfenstein, and the like. And even For Honor, since I'm currently playing For Honor, and it is relevant to mention. Oh, For Honor has gotten...
sometimes it can happen that
For Honor has gotten kind
really
of more slapstick about it.
In a game, but because,
Well, I mean, keep in mind, like, as far as violence goes, there are games that the ESRB rated adult only because of violence, and they had to tone it down to release the game.
It's
Postal
like
comes to mind.
Over in Japan as well. Like, censorship is a thing. I heard mention of Resident Evil 7. There was an edition released over there. There were two editions of the game. The basic one and the grotesque edition, which has something more like what the Western release was. But even that was censored in several places because they're really fucking strict about it.
Well, even Resident Evil 4 got censored.
They even talked... It was the lead... It was the project lead talking about it, I believe. And he even said, there are a lot of games where you explicitly have to fucking keep in mind, how will this be censored?
Or
how do we try and
Germany,
not have to work on
this
this afterwards?
Extremely strict on violence.
Yeah, and swastikas.
Well, yeah, but like in Germany, you can't have video games where you're shooting people. at all.
Sorry, you're
like,
cutting out,
if
Foil.
there are, they will fucking...
Foil, man, you cut out for me really badly just there. I heard 2 words of what you just said.
I'm sorry, I said Germany's really strict on violence. You can't even have games where you're killing people. They have to change it into where it's like a robot
Yeah,
or
they
some
switch
shit.
them to zombies, usually.
Oh no, they're like hardcore about censoring zombie games because they're human-like.
I did not know that one.
Yes, like, Germany's hardcore about being anti-violence.
So I'm guessing games like Call of Duty or Battlefield or even Halo wouldn't make it into...
Halo...
They get
Yeah.
censored to the extreme, and usually blood options either have to be turned off or they have to be recolored so they're not like humans.
Yeah, like Rainbow Blood or just like Sparks, like one of Gears of War 2's options, I believe. Where you could just have it so it was just Sparks.
Really?
Yep.
Okay, I'm kind of interested now to actually get a copy of a German Battlefield or Call of Duty and just see what differences there were.
And like,
I'm sure I might not be able to understand anything they're saying.
you'd probably be surprised.
I kinda wanna
German's
see the
kind of
differences.
easy to pick up if you speak English.
They're surprisingly similar.
Really?
Like, I think it's
Alright.
easier to pick up German than it is, say, like Spanish or French.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Much easier. Because,
yeah,
well,
and then-
Anglo-Saxon. Where are the Saxons
Yeah.
from? Just saying.
Yeah,
So it makes sense.
Okay, fair point.
but
I mean,
And
even the fucking British royal family descends from Germany. They're the Habsburgs or something along those lines. So, yeah, if you speak English, German will not be that hard to learn. I mean, you're still learning another language, but...
yeah.
I love how we've gone from fucking net neutrality to censorship in Germany to how easy is it to learn German?
Find out in 3
The
easy
joy-
Not
steps.
to
Choice
mention we
of
talked about pirates in
multiple
India.
people.
And, what was another topic we brought up?
Pirates.
I know we brought up another topic.
Lots of pirates.
But I can't. No, I already
you?
said pirates. Yeah.
Concentration camps in America during World War II?
That's it. That's the other thing we talk about.
Yeah, I'm actually, since Germans were mentioned, I'm really rather curious about that. Just how bad was support for the Nazis over in those days?
Pretty
If
fucking
anyone-
universal.
Goodness.
What do you mean
Then
as
again-
far as... In this game? In World War II?
Yes. Well, the Nazis weren't a thing in World War One, so...
Yeah. Well, I meant Call of Duty World War II is what you was...
No, I mean
Talking
the
about.
actual conflict.
What do you mean? Like here in
Like,
America? Like the Nazi Party in
before-
America?
Yeah, like, how were they supported and so on? Like, what was the sentiment over in America? Because I know there were many things.
To be
Before
fair,
Pearl Harbor and the like.
To be fair, the Nazi Party in America
before Pearl Harbor,
was
we
pretty, pretty shit. Like it was small, had
No,
very
I
little
mean
fucking power.
general support for, like, Germany back then and Hitler. And...
He just...
Let me rephrase. I
He
don't
just said
strictly
that.
mean the actual Nazi Party's wing over in America. I mean how much people supported Hitler and the like.
Well,
Or-
honestly, up until Germany started expanding and fucking taking over, like I said, it was like most of the world. Most people respected Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party.
True.
I mean, we didn't even know about the concentration camps up until damn near the end of the World War.
because people started going into Germany and German-held territory. Look what they found. And people still say that was fabricated. How fucking stupid of them.
Are you kidding me? Fucking
Yeah,
8 million
if
Jews,
any of the
20
viewers
million
that
people
are
total?
watching actually think that,
Yeah, people still say apparently that was bullshit. Or at least fucking doctored. So the numbers
hold
are
on, I
higher
wanna
than
say
they
something.
actually are.
For
or some
any of the
bullshit.
viewers who actually think
If you
that
believe this,
the fucking...
if you believe this, you're fucking stupid.
Hold on,
I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm not mincing words. You are fucking stupid because it takes
I
the
know, but
barbarism
I have
of
a
the
particular
Nazis and
reason
just
why I want to
reduces
say
it
that.
to conspiracies. I respect. I know
Sparta,
you're
you
trying to
knew
say something.
what would happen when you broke a steel.
Go on.
Yes, Castillo, can I please say my point?
Because I'm done. So feel free.
Okay, because it sounded like you were done the past few times and you interrupted again and again.
Fair enough.
So, for any of you who actually do believe in the whole, the concentration camps are a conspiracy, my grandfather or great-grandfather, I can't remember which, was in the Rolling W's when they went to a concentration camp. And didn't talk about it until he broke down in front of my dad. So, fuck you dipshits who believe it's a conspiracy. My grandfather was there. Fuck you.
How reliable is the source? Because you were the one saying it was Auschwitz, which is found by Russians.
Yeah.
To be fair,
I don't
Auschwitz is
remember
the
the
most
name of the camp,
identifiable
but I do know he was
concentration
there.
camp. Let's just say it was a camp.
One of the largest.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
The thing is, you can look up the Rolling W's, look up what they did.
just
They
I
actually
invite
came
anyone
across
who
a
denies the Holocaust to
camp.
take a trip to Germany and visit Auschwitz. I mean, it's still there.
If Hitler truly didn't do what it's been documented and widely proven that he did, why would Germany hate him so much and try so eagerly to fucking disassociate themselves with the man? It's like the Japanese. Shinzo Abe, I believe, they hate the man because he's slightly militant. Like, he can't even really be called militant. He just leans slightly more towards military policy than they'd like, which is a very fucking strict tolerance.
Didn't he get locked in his palace by the Japanese Navy towards the end of the war?
No, he's a modern leader.
Yeah.
You would mean the emperor back then.
And yes, you're right. Hirohito led a coup and basically took over Japan.
Is that why it was Imperial Japan?
Yeah, they
Or am I
actually had an
mistaken?
emperor, but Hirohito was the commander of the armed forces.
Ah. And to be fair, they were fighting the Chinese and the like as well, were they not? Or was it them who perpetuated that? Yeah.
Well, Japan invaded China, basically took over Korea. Like, Korea had its own concentration camps of Koreans.
Yep.
Yeah, like,
A lot of
Keep in
horrible
mind-
shit happened.
keep in mind, China and Japan have been fighting back and forth for centuries.
Like
Yeah.
the Serbians and Bosnians.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, I think we should
End it here.
in the... Yeah, but I want to bring up another thing that people have been worried about with net neutrality, so we can end on the topic of net neutrality.
What's that?
Another thing that companies making fast lanes and
I
slow
know what
lanes
it
for certain
is. That was a
sites.
joke as to the fact we've been off topic.
Ow.
Not funny when you explain the joke, Sparta.
So to be honest, I didn't pick up on the joke until after I
Got
said
that
what I
much,
said.
thank you. Got that much.
Well, anyway, but yeah, that's the one thing we didn't bring up.
Oh, I actually did kind of hit on
So-
this. That's actually something mobile phone companies have been doing for years, and nobody seems to care.
More like no one seems to know because people are ignorant, as we mentioned.
I don't know why. Like, if you have a prepaid phone, it says you get this many gigs, and then it slows down, and they have specified.
I
if
suppose
you get the
the
phone
thing
that
is,
they
it's
want,
a matter
they will-
of it's a phone as opposed to it's the internet you use in your house with PCs, gaming consoles, and the like. Portability, I suppose. People would see as the
Oh, and
trade.
don't forget the toasters and refrigerators with Wi-Fi
God,
adaptability.
the Juicero. You've just reminded me of the Juicero.
Oh my god. You don't need this in your life. No one needs this in their life. Why?
Someone
At
took
that point,
apart
you might
the
as well
fucking
just put a
Juicero.
sign on your door that says,
do you know the
hey,
funny
if you come in
thing
here,
is-
I'm going to shove things in your face.
Do you want to know the funny thing about the... Do any of you three know what the Juicero is? Or four, if we count G-Dog. Is G-Dog here?
No.
He hasn't said it.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
here.
G-Dog?
It's
You
been
guys
loud
know
over
the
here. I
juicer.
didn't want to screw up the recording.
Yeah. The Juicero is like...
You didn't want to.
It's a cold-pressed juicer.
With a lot of background noise.
It requires a Wi-Fi connection. Like you'll have to fucking subscribe and get these stupid fucking packets that you put in and juice, and they have to be in date and so on. Someone got their hands on a copy of the thing, took it apart, put it on video, just taking it apart to show what ticks. And the funny thing is, it's actually really well made, but no one would appreciate how well made it is because it's the dumbest, most fucking hipster idea you could possibly envision. Like the guy
I don't know, I
behind
can
it.
Imagine.
Yeah, I
No,
could
let me put it
imagine
this way.
some pretty
The guy
hipster
behind it
things.
apparently went on a raw water diet. This is
He went on
water
a
without
what?
any of the fucking treatments
what?
that makes water not be shit to drink. I shit you not. That
Hang
was
on,
a
can
thing.
you go back? I didn't hear what the first part was.
About the Juicero or the founder of the thing.
About the founder. He went off about something, but I couldn't hear what.
There was a news article I saw a while back. Like the founder of the fucking Juicero project apparently went in on this like raw water fad.
Raw water. Oh,
Yep.
is this like the fast track I've been to where on their soda
Water
fountain,
without
there's
any of the
regular ice and
treatment processes
diet
that-
ice?
Yeah. It's about
my-
that level of stupidity.
Diet ice.
Oh, no surprise. He's in. I believe he's generally in Silicon Valley. I believe that's where he's based.
Wow. Who would have thought?
Yeah. And
Right.
the Juicero project failed because it was so fucking stupid, and they marketed it so poorly that nobody really wanted to buy it. But whoever they got to make it presumably played them for a fool because some fucking engineer or whatever could have legitimately got their apprenticeship off of that shit. It's made so... The actual things themselves are made so fucking well.
But
Just
Yeah.
people
Now
will
that
do
we're off this
absurd
tangent-
things.
well, now that
go
we're
on.
on this tangent, I wanted to mention though, like the phone thing is relevant because, like I said, they've been doing this shit for years. The things people are afraid that ISPs will start doing. The thing is, these things are dying off on cell phones because people are getting the plans, the fucking prepaids that don't do this.
Yeah.
And if you remember right, decades ago, there was no choice in mobile phone companies.
And said prepaid things are becoming less prolific because I believe there's one over here where it's like data doesn't get used on streaming on certain sites. You have like 100 gigabyte fucking allowance of data. A
well,
lot.
like, I'm actually on a prepaid phone plan now that I have no limit on data. It was fucking, I had 10 megabytes at fucking 4G and the rest was the LTE service. Now it's unlimited all on 4G. Like, I mean, the best argument I've heard is people are afraid that these companies are going to have like executives and committees that are ideologically biased, and they're only going to offer information, like they're going to prefer information from their point of view to be put out there. And honestly, I don't see how they could effectively do that without making actual blocks on the internet, and everybody would be in an uproar on that.
Everyone who properly understood it.
Well, that's one thing they could do with the slow and fast lanes.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, at best, they're going to put the things that they ideologically agree with, they're going to put on a fast lane, and what they don't, they put on a slow lane. So fucking what? Like, this is not a new concept. They still do this kind of shit with TV. Like, certain TV providers carry certain channels as a basic package because that's what they want ideologically to have as their basic package. If you want something else, you have to pay extra. Like, at this point, they're not even...
Or go to a different company unless there's no other company, so then you're stuck with that one company.
Honestly, at this point, there's no way you have just one company choice.
We only had one TV company for quite a while, but now there is DirecTV.
I was going to say, you don't have satellite
Well,
and
just complete
cable
shit.
and whatever?
DirecTV's only been here recently. For a long, long time, yeah, we only had the one.
I mean, but it's the same thing. Like, why are you going to why are you going to have the government regulate the internet like this when you're not going to regulate phones and TV and everything else like this?
Well, then I guess we should regulate the phones as well.
Did you hear me facepalm? Sparta, why do you instantly jump that
to use is kind of shit? Why?
Why are you jumping that I don't like this, so the government should do this? Like, that's one of the reasons American politics is fucked up. The government has its hands in things it should not. And like, this goes down to
Gwent now.
like, this goes down to ideology, like what you believe the purpose of government is. Like, the purpose of government is not to regulate every facet of a person's life because they're unhappy with something.
No one has a response to that, I see.
Yeah.
Well,
I told you we were unleashing the foil.
I can't really argue.
Such a burn needs a medical team to treat. Just saying. And since you mentioned the idea of TV companies and so on, and their basic packages. Funnily enough, that isn't really such a thing here in England. Like, you'll get packages, but generally everyone has the same channels. News channels and so on. It's more of an even thing. You don't get like Sky over here, which is owned by Rupert Murdoch, I believe.
Oh,
I don't really get them having exclusive channels.
Did anyone else see how we have deregularized how many different media outlets one person can own again? Making it easier for one person to just own all the news sources in an area. Now you can own all the newspapers and all the TV, or all the news channels. Because, that doesn't give someone too much power or anything. Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is wrapping up then.
Yeah, it kind of is. And I can't really think of anything else.
We all leave more depressed than we came in.
Kind of shot down any point that Foil shot down everything I said.
I didn't know what you thought would happen when you brought Foil.
I can't really... Yeah. Well, for any of you who are still supportive of net neutrality, I will leave a link in the description for a few things you can go to, like the battleforthenet website or the other ones like it. So feel free to go to that and tell them you support it if you still do. Other than that, anyone else have anything they want to bring up?
I don't know. You sound pretty broken right now.
I'm just trying to think, what the hell should I
don't know.
say?
You sound like a broken man.
Well, once again, I was going to say I see net neutrality as a necessary evil. I'm actually unhappy it's being overturned. Even though I can argue for it being overturned, I would prefer it wasn't.
But that is important that you see both sides of an issue.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see it enough these days.
Yeah.
I mean, when we were talking about this, we could pull up the conversation where Foyle said you could argue both sides, and Sparta said, what's both sides? What do you mean? He didn't comprehend there being two sides.
Yeah, and, well, now I know more.
Like, I could almost wiser argue and more depressed. Congratulations.
I could argue this on a purely ideology base. Like, on either side. Issues like this are way more complex than people tend to make them.
Isn't that every issue?
Yeah, but issues like this get oversimplified more than others because people pay attention to this. Like, they pay attention to the basis, but they don't have time to dig deeper, so they get the gist of it and go off of that. Make their opinions off of that. And they generally don't think about things such as principles like, I said I consider net neutrality a necessary evil. It's because I don't believe the government should have that kind of power, but I think they need to in this situation.
Yeah, at least until something else comes along that is actually better, instead of just automatically removing it without fixing it.
Well, like I said, a lot of these issues would be solved if, like, what's going on in the EU, we had privacy laws that they couldn't take our data like that, and anti-monopoly, enforcing our anti-monopoly laws.
Which
But
are
that's
pretty much
unlikely to
ignored.
happen. Yeah, that's not likely to happen, so it's a necessary evil.
Well, anyway. Thanks for watching, everyone. As I mentioned before, go down into the description below and check out the link to the battleforthenet.com and say you support net neutrality. This has been Sparr Likos. Thanks for watching. Adios.